Welcome to Lykken on Lending, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of the mortgage industry. Your host, David Lykken, bringing you the latest insights, trends, and updates from the world of mortgages. Whether you're a seasoned industry veteran or just getting started, this show is your go-to source for all things mortgage. Let's get started. This is Lykken on Lending. Now your host, David Lykken.
Listeners, good to have you back. We're back with Pavan. Normally when we have Pavan on, we're talking about AI, technology, what's going on. But I've known Pavan since he's 11 years old. That's when I first met him. Now, we lost touch for each other for a whole bunch of years. We reconnected around Angel AI. But I now have really gotten to know him. We're close personal friends. And he's texting me regularly of what's going on with Doge politically. And you've been an astute observer of what we're now seeing unfolding. And Pavan, I'm going to put you on the spot. I want you to share with our listening audience your predictions. You predicted what is going on right now. And there's times where I hoped it would be true, but I thought, I'm not sure you're not crazy in some of this stuff. Pavan, what's going on with Doge, Elon, and everything in DC? What's this mean for the mortgage industry?
First of all, I'm very much crazy. So take whatever I say with a grain of salt. I'll just give you my theories, and they could be wild, crazy theories, or maybe, and time will tell whether I'm right or not about this. But
well, you've proven out to be right with the things you texted me, and where we're at today. It's happening just as you predicted.
Yeah, and again, this stuff is for fun. I enjoy watching and analyzing and thinking about it. And I don't actually have a trade on my own theories. I let the trading be done by the professionals in my trading desk. Yeah. They don't trade on my theories.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Doge is super interesting. Vivek was smart to leave when he did, because I believe that he laid out the legal framework. He did all the hard work layout. If you look at how they're approaching it, it's legally brilliant. None of the attacks are sticking. Like all these, just recently, the restraining order was overturned by the Supreme Court, and so on. So Vivek's really an attorney, and he laid out that framework, and then like his job at the Doge is done. So he did the right thing, and he got the endorsement from both Elon and Trump for Governor of Ohio, and we wish him well on that as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Vivek, is it Vivek? You know him, and you know personally. Yeah. You're both from India. You have a great, tremendously successful backgrounds. It's very interesting. So again, talk about what you think as a result of Doge, the finding all the corruption, the waste that's going on. How does that translate as far as interest rates and where we're heading? And then the little surprise at the end, the Easter egg at the end, I want to have you throw in your opinion about the Federal Reserve, because we both share that one in common. Very interesting.
Yeah. So the reason I started with Vivek, because that's an important piece of the puzzle, because nothing Doge would do will succeed unless the legal foundation for it,
or what they do is right,
has been correctly, and so that is in very solid ground. So that gives a level of confidence, like, okay, they may actually pull this off. So what I find interesting is all this talk about we're going to audit Fort Knox and we're going to look at the gold in Fort Knox and so forth. My gut tells me that there's going to be a bunch of gold missing because of the immense amount of corruption over the years, and people have been siphoning it off. But my guess is that's going to be an overall small amount in the big scheme of things.
I hope you're right.
Yes. There's going to be some missing, but it's not much for America. Okay. But what Trump has announced, see, the U.S. gold reserves were pegged at a value based in 1974, something like that. Right? And gold has gone up to, what, $3,000 an ounce or something? Mm-hmm. And it's never been remarked. Right. So there's there's like $1 trillion of money sitting there, right? That's not been accounted for. It's like real money.
Yeah. Okay. And when you say mark, you mean market to, like a mark to market.
Mark to market. It's like you own your house. You bought it in 1974 for $10,000. Today is worth $2 million. And on your personal balance sheet, you still say $10,000. You've got $2 million of wealth over there. Right.
Good example.
But you're just saying it's only $10,000.
Yep.
Okay. And that's what the government has done. It's just like this money's hiding away. We got all this money sitting there. And now, remember, in March, there's going to be this fight over the debt ceiling. We're about to hit the debt ceiling. And Doge
wants... It is coming to a head.
Yes. Yes. This is about to come to a head. And Doge and Elon Musk, I think, has said recently that he's already identified the $2 trillion that he wants to cut. They've already figured it out. They already know exactly what they want to cut. Okay. Here's what I think is going to happen. If the debt ceiling isn't raised, right, the government is going to shut down. And so if the debt ceiling isn't raised, and if the administration takes a very hard line, like we must have all of these things, or we're not going to agree to a debt ceiling raise, but I'm not going to sign the bill, right? So I expect Trump to take an extremely hard line on what the bill is going to be. So now that's a little bit scary thought, because without the debt ceiling, the U.S. cannot issue more debt, literally cannot issue more debt, and cannot pay the debt. So what do? Okay, guess what? The main legal attack for Doge making the cuts is that the executive branch doesn't have the power to stop funding that Congress has allocated. But when the debt ceiling isn't raised, the budget isn't there, the Congress has no longer allocated any of these people, no longer has allocated any of those expenses.
Okay.
Okay, so what Trump needs is the debt ceiling to expire, money is no longer there, and then in an instant, he can implement Doge, right? And
when you say implement Doge, what do you mean by that?
Meaning all the $2 trillion of cuts that Elon Musk
he's
found, because the money isn't there, he could just shut down those programs, fire the people, whatever he's got to do, he's going to do. I'm not for anyone losing their jobs, but for anyone who's been ripping off the U.S. government, yes, kick them out.
Absolutely, I want them to lose their job.
Kick those bums out. So that's my guess. Right, that's what I think is going to happen. We'll see what actually happens. I'm going on the record now. I'm putting myself out on a limb here, going on the record, saying here's what I guess is going to happen. So now you're going to say, well, if the government shuts down, oh, that's terrible. How are we going to fund the military? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? But we just found $1 trillion over here. That's enough to fund the military and everything else you need to fund and pay interest and all this kind of stuff. So that could fund the U.S. government for a long time, right? And it's when you cut out all that other nonsense and when you just spend money on what you're supposed to spend the money on, $1 trillion is plenty. Okay.
Good point. You're predicting when we get to the end of this current budget cycle, then we're going to let it get into a crisis.
Right. He's going to take an absolute hard stance. I will only sign a bill.
Which will create what will feel like a crisis.
And he'll basically say, here's what the bill must have, and this is it, and this is only the thing that I will sign. End of story. You guys work it out. You give me this bill, I will sign it. If you don't, I don't care. That's what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's plenty of money stored up that will be able to cover the things that everyone's so afraid of.
That's right. So the country is still functional. We're not going to just implode. Everything is there. It's just that,
contrary to what you'll hear on mainstream media, this will be fine.
We'll be just fine. That's what I think the plan is, and that's why Musk and Trump are so confident that they're going to cut this $2 trillion. And now, what does that mean to the mortgage industry? What does it mean to us?
Yes.
Is, imagine, we're not issuing any more treasuries. What does that mean?
Great point.
That means the supply goes to zero, and there's still all this demand, right? Interest rates will collapse.
Interesting. Yeah, I see your point.
Right?
Yeah.
There's
the demand for investment, and there's not a better investment than a mortgage-backed security.
Right.
And if treasuries are not there, the money's going to flow in, and the amount of money flowing in, the demand will exceed the demand for the investment. The cash flowing in will exceed what's available, so it's going to drive down interest rates. Is what you're saying?
Yes.
Where do you predict interest rates could go to, or what's a reasonable expectation, Pavan?
Oh, I think if they make it happen with Doge, I think the dollar is going to skyrocket. I think the 10-year treasury is dropping in the twos. Yeah, because the government's not issuing new treasuries.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a food fight. You won't be able to find enough of them.
So let's talk about another one that you and I talk about privately, and I want to get this out there.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about the Fed saying this, the Fed is saying this. Is the Fed going to continue to exist?
What's the need of the Fed if the U.S. isn't issuing more debt?
And also, when did the Federal Reserve get established? It was in the 30s. You need to go read the book. Everyone needs to go read the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. It tells the story so well.
I think the Federal Reserve got established about the same time income tax got established.
Yeah. There's an interesting tie to the Titanic as well. The Titanic sinking, how they took out certain people who resisted to this with the Titanic. And that's a whole other conspiracy.
Yeah, it's a possibility, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Very fascinating.
Right.
But the bottom is the Federal Reserve was formed in the 30s, and it has not been an institution, along with income tax, has not been, along with IRS, has not been something. So I think we have a lot of really interesting changes coming down the line. And when I hear everyone, like I just came from Housing Wire Economic Summit this last week, it was a great conference, and based on the facts and how our current structure is, they made some really good points. But I kept thinking, yeah, but what if the Federal Reserve ceases to exist altogether?
Well, I don't know if they'll cease to exist, because I don't think that's simple to unwind, but they won't have any value. There's nothing for them to do. If we're not issuing debt, why do they exist?
Yeah.
They're going to just sit around and collect dust.
Yeah, great point. I didn't mean to say cease to exist, but they certainly won't have the power that they have right now. Fascinating information. Anything else on this topic you want to share with our listeners, Pavan? We're getting out there a little bit with this one. For a lot of people are going to go, okay, I love what he does with HLAI, but I'm not too sure that I'm picking up what he's laying down here.
Yeah, and I do believe inflation is going to collapse. I don't know when, right? This is one of those things, just like everyone saw that in the 2000s that the home bubble was going to collapse. Everyone saw that the dot-com bubble was going to collapse. Right now we're in a yield inflation bubble. And remember, inflation is actually good. A lot of people, in the sense, not good, but a lot of people are getting very rich off inflation right now. Right? I got rich off inflation because I own a lot of real estate. So real estate went up, 20% per year since COVID, whereas inflation, I think at the peak, clocked 9%. So real estate outperformed inflation by more than 2 times. Okay.
Interesting.
So anybody who was long assets, anybody who was long durable assets, long-term, long-dated durable assets, did really well with inflation. That means if you're long gold, you're long real estate, long copper, look at Bill Gates bought up all that farmland. He knew what he was doing. Right? He expected inflation. Blackstone and BlackRock bought up all those homes.
Yeah, Blackstone is the primary one that bought up all those homes. Exactly right. What do you see as far as the equity markets? Any predictions on the equity markets? I have a good friend of mine who believes that we're going to see it up over 10,000.
I'm not the right person to ask on that, but I do believe overall the U.S. economy is
going to do very well.
Is going to do very well. And I think the level of efficiencies that companies are going to see with, again, these technologies that we have, hydrogen is finally being embraced, right? Remember, electric cars and lithium batteries, right? They were only successful because the administration poured hundreds of billions of dollars into it, right? And Tesla, let's face it, Elon, as much as he's a friend of the Republicans now, he was made by Obama. All that money Obama poured into electric vehicles, and he was smart. He's a good businessman. I mean, he took the trade. He stepped in and took all that. Hey, Obama was giving out the tax credits. He went and grabbed them. Who is he to fight City Hall, right? So I can't blame him. But at the end of the day, the EV company and lithium-ion industry exists because of massive government subsidies. Right?
But if we go over to hydrogen, we're going to see a completely new world.
Yes, and remember, natural hydrogen. I mean, the U.S. has enough natural hydrogen in the soil to power it for 1,000 years or something like that. And now the new hydrogen cars, and even Tesla just announced a new hydrogen car. When, remember, 3-4 years ago, Tesla said hydrogen's awful and never work.
Yeah, very too volatile.
Yeah, of course it's awful and never work when you're getting all this free money from the government. He's not getting free money for hydrogen; he's getting free money for batteries. Wherever the money is coming, you're getting the money to do something. Yes, that's the best thing, right?
Very interesting.
But now that the free money is dried up, now you have to go to actual technology that really works, that really is sustainable, and so that's hydrogen. And remember, the credit for hydrogen really goes back to GW. And in my opinion, is one of the greenest presidents we've ever had, because he's the one who came up with the initiative. He put the DoD on the path of, I want all military vehicles, all military to run on hydrogen. So he started that back in 2001, 2002, and put a bunch of money into hydrogen research. Okay. And then we know the turmoil that happened in the world. So now we've gone full circle. We're back to hydrogen.
It's always fun to get your text messages. You not only text me about what's going on economically, where you predict things are, but you also are just so exciting to talk to when it comes with all the new science. We may have to do a whole nother podcast on that. Thanks for taking time to talk about the market, your view of the markets. I wanted to share that with our listeners. It's very interesting. And it's not a lot of people are talking about it except you and I. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, David.
You've been listening to Lykken on Lending. Our passion is to bring you the latest insights, trends, and updates from the world of mortgages. So on this show, if you're a seasoned industry veteran or just getting started, it's your go-to source for all things mortgage. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We'll be back soon. Take care, and we'll see you next time on Lykken on Lending.